Ion stood alone on the deck of the giant cargo ship, staring at the endless dark ocean. It was midnight, the wind was cold, and most of the sailors were asleep. Only the soft hum of the engine and the slow movement of the waves could be heard. But to Ion, the night felt different, heavier, almost alive. He was used to long nights at sea, but tonight the quiet scared him. The moon was hidden behind thick clouds, and the sea looked like a black mirror stretching into forever. Ion pulled his jacket tighter around his shoulders and tried to breathe slowly. He told himself it was just another night, just another shift. But deep inside, he knew the sea was about to remind him of something he tried to forget. A small wave hit the side of the ship with a soft splash. Simple sound, harmless. But Ion felt his chest tighten, as if the wave carried a message only he could hear. He stepped closer to the railing. The wind brushed his face, carrying the smell of salt and cold water. For a moment, everything was silent. Then a strange low sound echoed from below the deck. Not the engine, not the metal, something else. Ion froze. He waited. Another sound followed, like a soft knock against the ship's hull. Knock, knock, knock. His eyes widened. His heart started beating fast. He looked around to see if another sailor was nearby, but he was completely alone. Ion leaned forward, staring down at the water. The waves moved slowly, gently, but then he saw something strange. A shape, a shadow under the surface. Not a fish, not debris. It looked almost like a hand reaching upward. Ion blinked hard and stepped back quickly. His breath turned sharp. No, it's just the water, he whispered to himself. But deep in his mind, he knew it wasn't just the water. The sea had been doing this to him for months, showing him things, whispering things, reminding him of a night he wished he could erase. He tried to walk away, but the knocking sound returned. This time softer, slower, almost like someone whispering a rhythm only he recognized. Ion closed his eyes tightly. It's nothing, he told himself. But the voice of fear inside him answered. It is the past. It has come back. He turned around and started walking toward the inner deck. His boots echoed on the metal floor. The ship lights flickered as the wind grew stronger. It almost felt like the ship itself was warning him. As he reached the door, he heard the sound again, this time behind him. A splash. A heavy, deep splash. Ion spun around. His eyes searched the dark water. Everything looked normal, yet completely wrong. The waves were calm, but Ion felt something pulling him toward the railing again. Like the sea wanted to speak, like it wanted him to listen. He stepped closer once more, slowly, cautiously. He leaned forward just a little, and suddenly, a loud metallic thud shook the side of the ship. Ion jumped back. His heartbeat raced like an alarm. He stumbled and fell onto the deck, breathing heavily. His hands trembled when he pushed himself back up. The ocean stared back at him, dark and silent, as if laughing at his fear. Ion knew he couldn't tell anyone. They would not believe him. They would say he was tired, stressed, overworked. But Ion knew the truth. The sea had a memory, and it remembered everything he tried to hide. He stood there for a long moment, shaking, watching the horizon as the clouds slowly moved and the moonlight returned. The soft silver light fell across the waves, making them shine like moving glass. In the moonlight, Ion felt something inside him break a little. A thought came to him, one he hated, one he ran from. Maybe the sea will never let me forget, no matter how far I go. He looked down at his hands. They were shaking not because of the cold, but because of the truth he carried inside his heart. A truth he never told anyone. A truth he buried deep in the ocean of his memories. Behind him, the ship creaked softly. Below him, the sea whispered again. And around him, the night stood still, watching. Ion slowly walked away from the deck, but he knew one thing with certainty. Tonight was only the beginning. The waves would speak again, and next time, they might not whisper. They might scream. Morning arrived slowly, painting a thin golden line across the horizon. Most sailors loved sunrise at sea, but for Ion, it only meant another long day of work and another battle with the memories he wanted to forget. He stepped out of his cabin, rubbing his tired eyes. He hadn't slept at all after last night's strange knocking. The hallway smelled of engine oil and metal. The floors were cold, and the walls vibrated softly with the constant heartbeat of the ship. Ion walked toward the main deck, where the real work always began. Life on a ship, people thought, was filled with adventure. Blue water, open sky, beautiful sunsets. But Ion knew the truth. Ship life was hard, loud, dangerous, and sometimes painfully lonely. As he reached the main deck, the day had already started for the other sailors. Some pulled heavy ropes, their hands rough and red. Others checked safety equipment or lifted boxes that seemed heavier with each passing hour. The engine crew was already fighting the heat below deck, sweat dripping from their faces even in the early morning. Ion joined them quietly. He didn't talk much, but he worked fast and steady, tying ropes, checking tension lines, and adjusting equipment with practiced movements. The sea wind hit his face again and again, but he didn't complain. Sailors rarely complained. It never changed anything. Captain Rafik, an older man with a white beard and deep eyes, noticed Ion's silence. "Another long night, Ion?" he asked while taking a sip of morning coffee. Ion forced a smile. "Yes, Captain. Just couldn't sleep." Rafik nodded slowly, as if he understood more than Ion wanted him to. "The sea is a way of waking old memories," the captain said. "Some men can ignore it. Some cannot." Ion's smile faded. He looked away, pretending to fix a loose rope just to avoid the conversation. He didn't want anyone to look inside him. He didn't want anyone to see the truth hiding under his calm face. But the captain wasn't angry. He simply placed a hand on Ion's shoulder. "Remember, the ocean takes something from all of us. Don't let it take your peace too." Ion nodded softly, but inside, he wondered if he even had peace left to protect. The work continued. The sun rose higher. The ship pushed through the ocean like a giant beast, leaving white foam behind. Daily routines followed like clockwork: cleaning, checking equipment, loading supplies, testing alarms, and making sure nothing went wrong. But what the viewers never see is the pressure on every sailor's mind. One wrong step, one wrong rope, one wrong day, and the sea would swallow everything. Ion saw a younger sailor, Imran, struggling to lift a heavy box. He walked over quickly and helped him. "You okay?" Ion asked. Imran laughed breathlessly. "Yes, brother. Just tired." "Tired? It's still morning," Ion replied with a small smile. "That's ship life," Imran said. "We get tired before the day even starts." Ion nodded. Imran was right. Ship life was not about comfort. It was about surviving each day with strength and patience. But even in all the noise, all the work, and all the pressure, Ion felt something strange. The ocean was watching him. Every time he looked at the water, he felt the same cold pull inside his chest, as if the sea wanted him to come closer, as if the sea knew his secret, as if the sea was waiting. During the lunch break, some sailors gathered around, eating and joking. Laughter echoed across the deck, but Ion didn't join them. He sat alone near the railing with a simple meal, staring at the waves. A sailor named Danish walked over, wiping his hands. "You should join us," he said. "It helps to forget how hard the work is." Ion shook his head gently. "Not today. You always say that," Danish replied with a frown. "Sometimes I feel like you're carrying something heavy inside you." Ion looked at the sea instead of answering, because if he opened his mouth, the truth might escape. Danish walked away, leaving Ion alone with the waves. The ocean moved calmly now, but Ion felt the same quiet fear in his heart. Life on a ship was already hard for every sailor. But for Ion, it was even harder, because he wasn't just working on a ship. He was trying to escape a memory the sea refused to let him bury. He stood up, finished with his lunch, and returned to work. But one thought stayed with him all day. What I heard last night was real, and it's only getting stronger. The ocean had a voice, and Ion knew it would speak again. The sun had set again, leaving the sky painted in dark blue and quiet shadows. Another long day had ended on the ship, and most of the sailors were preparing for rest. But Ion wasn't ready to sleep. Something inside him kept pulling him toward the lower deck, a place sailors rarely visited unless necessary. He walked down the metal stairs slowly, each step echoing in the empty passage. The air was cooler below, smelling of rust, rope, and old memories. Lights flickered as he passed through the narrow hallway. The deeper he went, the quieter the ship became. No laughter, no talking, only the soft hum of machinery somewhere far away. Ion wasn't heading to his cabin. He was heading somewhere he avoided for months. Room 17. The room no sailor talked about, and no one used. He reached the long corridor where the storage rooms were lined up on both sides. All the doors looked the same, gray metal, heavy locks, numbers painted in fading white. But room 17 always stood out to him, not because of its look, but because of the feeling it gave. It felt alive. Ion stopped in front of the door. His heartbeat increased. His breathing slowed. For a moment, he felt foolish, standing here alone, acting like a frightened child. It's just a storage room, he whispered to himself. But deep inside, he knew it wasn't just anything. Not to him. He placed his hand on the cold metal. Immediately, a chill ran down his spine. He took a step back. And then it happened. A sound. A soft knocking from inside the room. Knock, knock, knock. Exactly the same rhythm he had heard outside the ship the previous night. Ion froze. His eyes widened. His throat tightened. This wasn't the engine. This wasn't the water. This wasn't imagination. Someone, or something, was inside room 17. He took another step back, but the knocking continued. Slow, steady, almost human. Who's there? Ion whispered, his voice shaking. No answer. Just another soft knock. He swallowed hard. He should run. He should call someone. He should leave. But he couldn't move. The memories he tried to bury began rising inside him like deep water pushing to the surface. His mind replayed the storm from years ago, the night he lost someone in the sea, the guilt he carried, the promise he could not keep. Another knock, louder this time. Ion's breath hitched. But before he could react, footsteps echoed behind him. He turned quickly. It was Imran, carrying a small toolbox. What are you doing here, Ion? He asked with a confused smile. Ion stepped aside quickly. In nothing. I was just checking something. Imran didn't seem to notice Ion's fear. He walked past him toward another storage room, humming softly. And something strange happened. The knocking from room 17 stopped instantly. Total silence. Ion stared at the door, shocked. It was as if the sound only came when he was alone. As if the room was waiting for him specifically. Imran looked back at him. Are you coming? Lights will turn off soon. Ion forced a nod. Yes, I'm coming. But he didn't move. He waited until Imran disappeared around the corner. Until the hallway was empty again. And then, the knocking returned. Knock, knock. Ion felt tears burn in his eyes. Not from sadness, but from fear and confusion. Why him? Why this room? Why now? He touched the doorknob carefully. It was ice cold, colder than it should be. His mind whispered, don't open it. His heart whispered, you have to. Before he could make a choice, he heard something else from inside the room. A faint, broken voice. A whisper. It was so weak, so far away, but Ion heard it clearly. A voice he once knew. Ion. He stumbled backward, hitting the opposite wall. His chest tightened. His vision blurred for a moment. That voice. It couldn't be real. It belonged to someone the ocean had taken years ago. A tear rolled down his cheek. He wanted to run, but his legs wouldn't move. The whisper came again, softer this time. Ion, why didn't you save me? The hallway suddenly felt too small, too dark. The air too cold. Ion knew now. The sea hadn't followed him just in the waves. It had followed him into the ship, into the walls, into room 17. And whatever waited behind that door was a part of his past he never wanted to face. But the sea had decided. It was time. Ion walked quickly up the hallway, away from room 17, away from the whisper that felt like it came from another world. His heart beat hard in his chest, and his hands shook as he climbed the stairs toward the main deck. The night air hit his face the moment he stepped outside, but even the cold wind couldn't calm him. He leaned against the railing, breathing heavily. The ocean moved below him in slow, dark waves, as if watching him quietly. For months, he had tried to pretend. Pretend the sea was only water. Pretend the past was gone. Pretend the guilt was dead. But tonight the ocean had cracked open the door of memory, and everything he tried to bury began to rise again. Ion closed his eyes, and the present faded. He was no longer on a big cargo ship. He was back on a small rescue boat. Years ago, fighting for his life in a violent storm. The wind had screamed like a monster. The waves crashed high, soaking every man on the rescue boat. Lightning cracked the sky open again and again. Ion, much younger then, held onto the side of the boat as it shook dangerously. "Over there," someone shouted. A small fishing boat had flipped upside down. Two people were thrown into the sea, a man and a small child. Ion's heart raced. He grabbed a rope and jumped without thinking. The cold water hit him like ice. He swam hard toward the child first. The boy was crying, choking on salty water. "It's okay. I'm here," Ion shouted, even though the storm swallowed his voice. He pulled the boy up with the rope. Two other rescuers grabbed the child and lifted him to safety. But the boy kept crying and pointing toward the waves. "Papa, Papa." Ion turned back immediately. He saw the father struggling far behind, fighting against the violent ocean. The man's hand reached up again and again, disappearing under the water with each giant wave. Ion swam with everything he had, pushing against the storm. "Hold on. I'm coming," he shouted. The man's head appeared for a second. Ion reached out his hand. Their fingers touched, but another huge wave crashed between them. The man was pulled under again. "Ion, get back. It's too dangerous," the rescue team shouted. But Ion kept swimming. He couldn't leave the man. He couldn't break the promise forming in his heart. Finally, he reached him. The man's face was pale, tired, desperate. He grabbed Ion's arm with trembling fingers. His voice was weak, almost lost in the storm. "Please, my son, keep him safe. Promise me." "I promise," Ion cried. Before he could pull the man up, lightning hit the water nearby. The shockwave pushed Ion back violently. The man slipped from his grip. Ion reached again, screaming, but the ocean took him in one swallow. Just like that, he was gone. Ion floated there, screaming into the storm as the rescue team dragged him back onto the boat. He stared at the black water, trembling, crying, feeling something break inside him forever. He had promised. He had failed. At least, that's what his heart believed. Ion opened his eyes. His face was wet, not from the sea, but from tears he didn't realize he was crying. He stared at the dark waves, the same waves that took the man away. The same waves that whispered to him at night. The same waves that called his name from room 17. He whispered to himself, I tried to save him. But the guilt inside him never believed those words. A soft sound echoed behind him. Footsteps. It was Captain Rafik. The old man walked slowly and stood beside him. "You look troubled, Ion," the captain said gently. Ion wiped his eyes quickly. "I'm Fine. Just tired." Rafik looked at him for a long moment. Then he spoke quietly. "The sea keeps what men try to hide. It brings back memories when the heart is too full." Ion's breath caught. Did he know? Could he see inside him? The captain continued, "You cannot outrun the past. Not on land. Not on water. Not anywhere." Ion turned away, but his voice broke slightly. "I lost someone long ago." Rafik nodded. "The ocean takes many, but it is not always our fault." Ion's hands gripped the railing tightly, but the whisper from room 17 still echoed in his mind. "Why didn't you save me?" He looked down at the ocean again. It seemed calm now, peaceful, almost gentle. But inside Ion, the storm was beginning all over again. The sea wanted him to face the truth, not run from it. And Ion knew, the deeper he went into this journey, the louder the waves would speak. Ion woke before dawn, long before the alarm bells or the shuffle of sailors beginning their morning routines. He hadn't slept. His mind kept replaying the whisper from room 17, the voice that should not exist, the memory that refused to die. He splashed cold water on his face, but it did nothing to calm the tightness in his chest. Even the walls of the ship felt closer today, as if the entire vessel was breathing with him, watching him. By mid-morning, clouds began forming over the horizon. Dark, heavy, rolling clouds that looked like mountains rising from the sea. Sailors noticed immediately. Storms at sea were not small problems. They were battles, and the ocean always fought harder than expected. The wind grew stronger, lifting ropes, shaking loose metal, carrying the taste of salt and danger. Captain Rafik shouted for preparations. Men ran across the deck, tightening equipment, securing boxes, locking doors. Ayan worked beside them, but his eyes kept drifting toward those forming storm clouds, feeling something different in them, something personal, as if the ocean was rising not just against the ship, but against him. Minutes passed. The sky darkened fast. The first loud clap of thunder hit like a punch. The ship trembled. Waves rose higher and crashed against the hull with a deep, angry roar. The sailors yelled orders, gripping railings, trying to keep balance. Wind slapped their faces with force. Rain started falling hard and cold, each drop like a needle. Ayan grabbed a rope and pulled with all his strength as the waves tilted the ship to the left. For a moment, it felt like the entire vessel would fall sideways into the sea. The storm had come fast, almost unnaturally fast. The ocean didn't just rise. It attacked. "Hold the line," someone shouted. Lightning flashed across the sky, illuminating the deck for a second. Bright white, harsh, revealing every terrified face. But in that flash, Ayan saw something else. Down below, on the lower deck, through the small metal window of room 17, the door frame was shaking. He blinked, thinking he imagined it. But then another flash came, another burst of lightning, and this time he saw it clearly. The door wasn't just shaking. Something inside was pushing it. Ayan stumbled backward, his heart pounding so violently he could barely hear the storm. The rain soaked him completely now, but he didn't feel the cold. His eyes were fixed on the lower deck door, on room 17, on the impossible movement inside it. The storm grew stronger. A massive wave slammed into the front of the ship, throwing several men to the ground. Ayan almost fell too, but he grabbed a railing just in time. Water covered the deck, rushing toward the edges like small rivers. A metal box broke loose and slid dangerously close to two sailors before crashing against a pillar. But Ayan didn't look at any of that. His mind was locked on the shaking door below. Another crash of thunder. Another flash of lightning. Now the door handle of room 17 was turning. Ayan gasped loudly. He stepped back, shaking his head. No, that's impossible. That's impossible. But the handle kept twisting slowly, as if someone weak was trying to open it from inside. Someone who shouldn't exist. Someone the ocean took away long ago. The wind howled louder, almost sounding like a scream. The ship tilted again. Alarms hung. Captain Rafik shouted for the crew to brace for impact. But Ayan barely heard him. He heard another knock. Even through the storm. Even through thunder. Even through crashing waves. A knock from inside room 17. He ran toward the stairs without thinking. He didn't know why. He didn't know what he planned to do. But something inside him, fear, guilt, memory, pulled him downward. Every step shook from the storm. Water dripped from the ceiling. Lights flickered violently, turning the hallway into flashes of light and darkness. He reached the bottom of the stairs just as the ship took another hard hit. He fell to one knee, gripping the railing, breathing fast. The hallway smelled of damp metal and danger. The door of room 17 stood at the far end, shaking slowly, rhythmically. Ayan took one step forward, another, and then another. His heart hammered so loudly he felt it in his throat. He reached out his hand toward the door, his fingers trembling uncontrollably. Before he touched it, a voice came from the other side, broken, distant, drowned in static, but clear enough for him to understand. Ayan, open it. Ayan stumbled back, almost falling. No storm, no wave, no wind could shake him the way that voice did, because it was the same voice from the night of the storm years ago. The same voice he lost in the sea. The same voice that begged him to save a life he could not save. And now that voice was behind the door, asking to be let out. Ayan stood frozen in the dim hallway, the storm roaring above him like an angry giant. The walls shook, lights flickered, and water dripped from pipes overhead, but none of that mattered. The only thing he could hear, the only thing he could feel, was the voice from behind room 17's door. Ion, open it. The voice was weak, broken, like someone speaking through water. It sounded far away, yet close enough to touch his soul. It was a voice he had heard only once before, on the night the ocean took a man's life. Ion's breath shivered out of him. He stepped back until his shoulders hit the opposite wall. His legs felt numb. His hands shook violently. "No," he whispered, shaking his head. "You're not real. This is just fear, just memory, just the storm." But the voice came again, softer this time, sadder. "You left me, Ion." He covered his ears, but the sound slipped through like a cold fog, filling his mind, pulling him back into the memory he spent years trying to bury. The storm's power above grew stronger. A loud metal crash echoed through the ship as something heavy fell on the upper deck. Sailors shouted commands, but down here, in the hallway, there was only Ion and the ghost of his past. He forced himself to breathe deeply. He had to think. He had to stay in control. But instead of calming him, his breathing grew faster. He felt the same helplessness he felt years ago when the storm dragged that man under the waves. The same fear. The same guilt. "Why now?" Ion whispered, staring at the door. "Why are you coming back now?" As if answering him, the door handle twisted again. The metal groaned. The vibration traveled through the floor, through the walls, through Ion's bones. He didn't move. He didn't blink. He couldn't. Ion wanted to run, but his legs refused. The storm outside shifted the ship hard to one side, and he stumbled, catching himself on the railing. The lights flickered again, off on off, until finally they glowed a weak yellow. The corridor stretched out before him, long and lonely. The door of room 17, still shaking, still calling him. When the ship tilted again, the hallway lights dimmed down to almost nothing. Shadows grew longer. The only sound was the storm and the faint, slow knocking from the door, like someone trapped underwater, trying to escape. Ion took a tiny step forward. He didn't want to, but something inside him, a weight he carried for years, pushed him. He whispered, barely hearing his own voice. "What do you want from me?" The answer came immediately. Truth. Ion's heart twisted sharply. He tasted fear in his throat. He closed his eyes, but that single word echoed again. Truth. He had hidden from it for years, buried it deep beneath work, silence, and long nights at sea. But now the truth was rising like a wave he could no longer outrun. The door banged loudly, so loud the entire hallway trembled. Ion's eyes flew open. His pulse shot upward. He stepped back, gripping a pipe for balance. The banging grew faster. Something inside was no longer softly knocking. It was hitting the door. Hard, desperate, angry. "Ion." The voice was louder now, sharper, filled with pain and accusation. "You promised." Ion covered his face with both hands. "I tried," he shouted back. "I tried to save you." The banging stopped. Silence fell, so suddenly it scared him more than the voice. He lowered his hands slowly. He expected another scream, another knock, another twist to the handle. But nothing came. The silence pressed against his chest. The storm above continued to rage, but down here, everything went still. Ion took a shaky step closer, then another. Each footstep echoed like a drum in the empty hall. He reached the door, placed his hand on the handle. It was warm, too warm, as if someone was holding it from the other side. Ion's fingers trembled. Tears formed in his eyes, not from fear, but from the years of pain he kept inside. He whispered, "What do you want me to do?" Slowly, painfully, a single reply came from inside. "Remember me." Ion felt his heart break open. Not fear, not anger, not blame, just sorrow. The truth hit him with the force of a wave. He had never forgiven himself. He had never accepted he did everything he could. He had never let the memory rest. His own guilt had created this haunting, and the storm, the ship, the silence. They all became the voice of a promise he could never forget. Ion stepped back from the door. The handle stopped moving. The room went quiet. The knocking ended. But something inside Ion finally began to open. Ion did not sleep that night. He sat in his small cabin, staring at the floor while the storm slowly weakened outside. The ship creaked gently now, as though tired from fighting the waves for hours. But inside Ion, a different kind of storm was ending, one that had lived inside him for years. He kept hearing that last whisper. Remember me. Not, why didn't you save me? Not, you failed me. Just a simple request, soft and human. Ion finally understood. It wasn't anger haunting him. It was memory. A memory he pushed down so deep that it twisted into guilt, fear, and nightmares. The storm, the dark water, the shaking door, none of it was the spirit of a lost man. It was his own heart begging him to stop running. As dawn approached, the sky slowly turned from black to deep blue. The ship rose and fell gently with the calmer waves. Sailors stepped out onto the deck again, tired but relieved. Everyone talked about the storm, how strong it was, how close the ship came to danger. But Ion said nothing. He moved quietly toward the lower deck. He needed to go back one last time, not to open the door, not to face the ghost he imagined, but to close the chapter inside him. When he reached the hallway, it felt different from last night. No flickering lights, no striking walls, no knocking. Everything was silent, peaceful, almost soft. Room 17 stood still, its door shut tightly, looking like any other storage room. Ion stepped forward and touched the door. This time it was cold, just normal metal. He closed his eyes and breathed deeply. I'm sorry, he whispered. I carried you like a wound. I thought I failed you. But I understand now. You didn't want me to drown with you. The hallway remained silent, but Ion felt something inside his chest loosen, like a heavy anchor being lifted after years of dragging. He placed his forehead against the door gently. I kept your son safe, he whispered. I kept the promise. A single tear slid down his cheek, but it wasn't a tear of pain. It was release. When he finally stepped back, the silence didn't feel threatening anymore. It felt peaceful. He walked up the stairs slowly, almost feeling lighter with each step. When he reached the main deck, the sun was rising from behind the horizon. Its golden light touched the waves, making them shine like liquid gold. The sea looked calm, warm, almost welcoming. For the first time in years, Ion looked at the ocean without fear. Captain Rafik approached him. You look different today, he said quietly. Ion gave a small smile. Real this time. I think. I finally understood what the sea was trying to teach me. The captain nodded. The ocean holds memories, but when we face them, it also brings peace. Ion looked out at the endless water. Yes, he said. It finally feels quiet inside me. Rafik placed a hand on his shoulder. Good. A sailor cannot live with storms inside him. The sea is already enough to fight. They stood together in silence, watching the rising sun. For the first time, Ion felt no weight in his chest, no whisper in the waves, no guilt chasing him. Just peace. Later, as the sailors continued their work, Ion walked to the edge of the deck. He took a small wooden charm from his pocket, a charm he had taken from the rescue boat years ago. It once belonged to the man he couldn't save. Ion held it tightly, then kissed it gently. Thank you, he said softly, for trusting me, for letting me go. He dropped the charm into the sea. The waves carried it away, slowly, like they were accepting his farewell. The water sparkled as the charm sank into the deep, peaceful silence below. Ion nodded to himself. The promise had been honored. The memory had been accepted, and the sea no longer held fear for him. He walked away from the railing with calm steps. Behind him, the ocean whispered, not in accusation, but in peace. For the first time in years, Ion felt whole. His heart had returned home.